So,
Thank you for that introduction, John. Okay, so here we go. If you go to the GTI Max server admin's public folder, there is a file on here called Moom 4.0 by Ramton. Double click it. It's going to give you a fresh copy of Moom. As soon as you have your Moom,
fresh brown.
as soon as you have your Moom copy open and ready to go, the first thing you should do is set a project, create a project. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go File, Project Window, hit New. I'm going to call this one Brown, Roger, Walk, Cycle 3B, because that's what we are, is we're 3B. I'm going to put it on my desktop, hit Accept. Then I'm going to go File, Set Project. I'm going to navigate to my file, hit Set, and then go File, Save Scene As, give it a name. I'm going to call it Brown, Roger, Walk, Day 1. If you want to call it Walk Day 1, that's fine. What this does is that means that if you screw up Moom, it's okay. You can always pull a new, fresh copy from the server. But this way, Moom is now named Brown, Roger, Walk, Day 1 instead of Moom. Works out well. A couple of things on Moom. If you're not familiar with Moom, you may want to watch my Moom Basics video. If you are familiar with Moom, remember that you've got to go to your channels box and turn on the right control, mid control, and left control. That's going to allow you to do all of these things, all of the things that you need to do in this assignment. The other thing you want to do is Moom is left with for this particular version of Moom, his right arm is stuck in an IK or an FK handle, forward kinematics. Forward kinematics meaning that you have to adjust each joint in order to get the rotation that you want. Forward kinematics being that if you grab the hand, the elbow and the shoulder will follow suit. Both have advantages, but for this assignment we're going to do it with the IKs. So select the R next to the right foot and change the arm switch to IK. And essentially you're ready to get going with Moom. Before I do that, I want to grab a picture from the internet as a reference. One of my favorite reference images is the Preston Blair walk cycle. So I'm just going to Google Preston Blair walk cycle. When that pops up, go to images. I really like this book. In fact, I have like 6 copies in the drawer if you want to check those out. But in the meantime, you can just grab one of these images off of the internet. For instance, this basic walk is all we need. We need just the movements of the two-legged figure. You can grab one of these files. I also like, there's a guy named Angry Animator, and he has a really good Flash tutorial that he does on walk cycles. You can also use his image as a reference. Probably the best walk cycle guru is Richard Williams, Dick Williams, and the Animator Survival Kit. You can also Google that. For me, I'm going to keep it simple today. I'm going to do the two-legged walk from Preston Blair's Preston Blair's cartoon animation. So I'm going to grab the image and save the image to my source images folder. Now right now it's just saving in my other project, but I want to go to Brown Roger Walk Cycle 3B, save it in my source images. That way it'll be easy to find. So I've just saved that image there. Back in my Moom, I'm going to grab a rectangle, and I'm going to apply that walk texture to this rectangle or this plane. I'm going to use a method simpler than UV mapping. It's simply just right-click, assigning a new material, selecting a Lambert from the list, going into the Lambert, going to the color, opening the checkerboard next to color, opening the file, opening the folder, selecting the picture, and hitting 6. Now that doesn't look very good, but I'm gonna play with that a little bit and fix it. I'm just gonna go into UV mode and fix it. If you really want to, you can create a UV map, take it into Photoshop, adjust it in Photoshop, the way that most professionals do it is they actually don't use this, this method. The method that they use is they will actually use what's called an image plane. And an image plane is essentially doing what we're doing. It's just, it's a little more permanent, and I just find it so much easier to just use UVs, just because I'm pretty used to them. So this image quality is terrible. For whatever reason, my file's not coming in very clear. And this happened to me earlier today. So to get a clearer picture, I can do a couple of things. I think I can reduce. No, that still doesn't fix it. So I can bring in a Photoshop network. In fact, I might just do that. I might pull in a Photoshop file. So assign a new material, choose a Lambert, go to color, and instead of doing file, I'm going to do a Photoshop file. Navigate to a Photoshop file that I've already created that is going to give me a nice clear view. If you need a refresher on creating Photoshop files, you can check my Serial Box tutorial, which is also on the server. But I'm hoping I can pull up a good Photoshop file right here. Good, that worked out just right. So I got to come back into my UV texture editor, rotate the UVs again, move them over, move my UVs down, move it up, and now I can take my what would be called, otherwise would be called an image plane. I can take it and I'm basically going to size it up, and I'm going to line up my first image with Moom. Okay, so here's my reference. It's a little stretched out. I'm going to play with it just a little bit, but essentially I want to get Moom set up. It's really easy, especially if you want to use your side view. You can use your side view, but I like having Moom split in half. I like doing the right side first and then going and doing the left side. So essentially, that's what I'm doing right now. Is I'm just going around, and I'm going to work on the right side, and then go to the left side. So here I have Moom, and then I just take his controls, which now I have to go back to my perspective view to get his controls. Basically, I'm going to get his control, go on to frame 1, and with the control, you've got a couple of different options. One, I can rotate. Let me go to perspective. That's not going to work in my side view. So I'm going to basically rotate and move his foot to match the first image. Now realize Moom's body type is a little bit different than Preston Blair's. So not everything is going to be exact, but you want to get close. So I know that his leg is straight, and it's straight out like that. So I'm going to grab this control and set a keyframe on 1. I'm going to grab this control and set a keyframe on 1. So that basically this is keyed and this is keyed. Then I go to my next frame. In my next frame, I'm going to move and slide my guy over. Okay, and I want the heel right here. I want the heel to line up. So this heel and this heel to line up right there. This is a simple movement then. I just come in and I rotate this back down. And I hit S, and that's going to set a keyframe. Oh, I screwed up. Let me undo that. I need to actually move over to frame 3 and move it down. You could do it frame 2, but I'm skipping every other frame so that he marches on 12, on the 12s. Instead of marching on 6s, I want him to march on 12s. So if I do every other frame, one stride is going to be 12 frames. If I do every frame, one stride is going to be 6 frames. So we want it to be 12 instead of 6. Just trust me on that. If you do it on 2 instead of 3, it's going to work. It's just you'll have to slow down your frame rate. So anyway, so I'm on frame 3 and I set the keyframe. So now you can see between frame 1 and frame 3, Moom's going to move his foot. That's really good. That's what we want to see. But I also need to come in and take the middle control, and I've got to move my middle control and try to get Moom in this position. So I've got Moom in that position, and I hit S. So now Moom's starting to walk. And essentially, I'm going to continue that on with every single frame. I'm going to do the legs, I'm going to do the left legs and the right legs. Once I have them done, once I've done both legs, if you follow the pattern, eventually you'll get to where you have a cycle. Now, one thing that's tricky with Preston Blair, I want you to pay attention to frame numbers here. This is frame number 1, frame number 3, frame number 5, frame number 7, frame number 9, frame number 11, and if you look, that's one step. If you notice this leg and this leg, it's essentially the drawing is the same, it's just where it's shaded. So in order for this leg to take one step, it takes 11 frames. Or if you're doing it on 6s, it takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 frames. Okay, that's how I'm getting the frame numbers. But you notice, so this is our frame number 13, or frame number 7, depending on which direction you're going. But if you notice, frame number 13 is identical to frame number 3. The only difference is the legs are switched. Frame number 15 is identical to frame number 5. Well, if you stop the cycle there, this will not be a complete walk cycle. Instead, it's going to come here and then kind of skip into the next frame. So what you have to do is there's a frame here that isn't drawn, but you make the assumption it's essentially this frame with the legs reversed, and then you do this frame with the legs reversed. So this would be frame, I believe, 15, frame 17, and then that's going to lead you right back into frame 19. And if you end on this frame, it will then lead you right back to this frame. Okay, I know that's confusing, but so let me do it on 6s just so that you can understand it. So you basically go frame 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then frame 7 is going to be the same as frame 2, just the legs reversed. Frame 8 is going to be the same as frame 3 with the legs reversed. Frame 9 is going to be the same as frame 4 just with the legs reversed. Frame 10 is going to be the same as frame 5 with the legs reversed. And that's where you're going to end it, because then it should automatically read back into this frame. Hopefully that's enough information to get you going. Work on the legs first and the body first, and then move on to the arms and some of the other things. But essentially that's it. It's just a matter of getting it set up and working at it. This video will be available in case you need to refer back to it, and hopefully that gives you enough work for the next little bit.